Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
On behalf of Imam Tariq El Amin, resident Imam of Masjid Al Taqwa, the Talem Committee Chair, Dr. Aisha El Amin, the committee members, Dr. Lionel Allen Jr., Rashida Fitzpatrick, and Dr. Gloria Bashir, I want to welcome you to today's Talem. Today's topic is holistically navigating a path to future educational opportunities. And we welcome our presenter, Dr. Lynn El Amin Muhammad. She is the eldest daughter of 9 children born to 2 pioneers of the Nation of Islam, founded by Elijah Muhammad. She became a member of the global Muslim community by taking her Shahada at age 16. Dr. Muhammad has participated in numerous interfaith programs. She provides Quranic, cultural, and community-based evidence for helping others develop and understand the importance of recognizing and reflecting on our similarities, not our differences. Dr. Muhammad founded the STREAM Labs, a hybrid education program, in 2013. She coined the name STREAM, Science, Technology, Reasoning, Engineering, Art, and Math, to help educators and students understand the overlapping nature of the core academic curricula and the importance of using an interdisciplinary approach to solving problems. She runs the StreamLab hybrid learning program. This program provides remote, virtual, and face-to-face STEM education experience for K through 12. I'd like to remind everyone that there will be time at the end of our presentation for questions and answers. Please feel free to use the raise hand function or submit questions or comments in the chat. Also, Taqwa family, please mute yourself if you are not speaking to help us avoid background noise. Before we begin, please note that today's Talem, as well as all past and future Talems and cookbahs, are available on the Masjid Taqwa YouTube channel. If you have not already, please subscribe. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lynn El Amin Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Sister Rashida, can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Which one is it? Just that one. Which one? One moment.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I also wanted to make a statement about Imam Tariq El Amin II, another student of mine, grammar school, college. I'm a student of his with his excellent Talems, khutbahs. And so this situation is full circle. And there are several other students of mine that I see names on the list of participants in the program and parents that I've worked with. So I'm saying all this to say that the more we touch each other's lives, the more enriching we become, as well as those people that we help to metaphorically touch. So I'm saying that as part of where we're going with this, to make sure that you all, inshallah, see the bigger picture. For those of you that don't know, that means God willing. All right, is it ready for me to share? Okay, I can see it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Making sure I'm picking the right one here. Yes. Okay, so opening up again, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The focus of my program today is to alert us, give us new insight if we don't already have it, readdress some issues that we may know but maybe are now on the back burners. Some of these things we may have experienced ourselves and alhamdulillah, possibly conquered those things. I'm saying what I'm going to say as an effort to enhance the quality of what you're already doing, whether you are the parent, the child, or the community member. I'm saying what I'm going to say in an effort, inshallah, to try to enhance. My experience, Sister Rashida read the my short bio. Thank you very much, Rashida, for doing that. For shortening it. That's what I'm thanking her for not reading it, but for shortening it. I appreciate all the experiences that I've had and all of you that have been part of that experience. I appreciate you helping me become the person that I am. And I'm still trying to improve myself and do more. So I don't want to sound like I'm the expert. I'm reawakening or giving you some tidbits, some crumbs to work with as you continue to do the excellent work that you're doing, student and parent, as well as your larger community, larger family, the community. So when I address this, I'm not just looking at the classes that you should take. I'm going to address them. I'm not just looking at what I call the recipe for success. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at pulling it together so it matches what the child needs, so that the child is as successful as possible in where they're headed and where they're going. I'm going to say what I'm going to say in an effort to help us provide them with the resources that they're going to use, because this is their path. This is their path. From the time that that child is conceived, there are things in place that has helped that child become who they are. Those things were in place originally. Those things that came along afterwards, even the seed for those new situations were in place already. The Creator made sure of that. So, because see, the gamete that fertilized the other gamete was amongst hundreds of gametes, but it was this one that fertilized that one. And so when these two came together, there was already a plan for how this youth was going to turn out. So we're here just to facilitate. That is our job, just as a facilitator. And as we do that, we have to realize that it's there. The answers are there. Sometimes we have to stand still. Sometimes we have to get quiet so we can hear it. Sometimes we can't make those decisions in the middle of stuff, life, conditions. Allah says He challenges us, He tests us, and He never gives us more than we can handle. And so believing that God has our back and God is always there to give us the support that we need, we go forward. If we're listening to God's insight, if we're listening to God's message, if we're paying attention to God's signs, we go forward with assurance that what we're doing is the right thing. Now, tomorrow I might learn something new. Okay, that's tomorrow. And when I learn the new, I'm not responsible for the new. But we can only do what we can. So I don't want parents, oh, this is going to be so hard. I don't want you feeling that way. Students, I don't want you feeling that way. Community members, I don't want you feeling that way. I am talking to all three parts of this piece, of this puzzle, of this situation. There's a role that I have as a parent. There's a role that I have as the youth. And there's a role that I have as the community. I've never given birth to anyone. You're still part of it. You're still part of it. And you're going to be evaluated, judged at the day of judgment based on how you participated in things. And this is part of it. You have an obligation to help your community thrive, to help your community be in the best possible way that it can be. So I'm talking to all of us that can hear me, to all of us that can hear me. Parents, I'm gonna start with you. Parents, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. Reach out. That reaching out might be your child and having other conversations with your child other than the ones you have on a regular basis. That reaching out might mean that you communicate with another parent who might see things a little differently in such a way that it sparks a thought in your mind to tell you, inform you, guide you to maybe expand how you're approaching this, or shrink it. Maybe you're too out there, so maybe you need to bring it in. That situation of not being alone might mean you reaching out to a community person who's not family, who's not a close friend, but who can assist you. And how do I know who to listen to? get still, get quiet. Pray to God that he guides you in the right direction and be open to what he guides you to. I'm not going to talk to that person. I got problems with that person. That person doesn't see things, da, da, da. Might not be what you should be doing because they might have the answer. You never know the form that your angels or that your messenger is going to come in. So be receptive, be quiet, be still, and listen. When it comes to your child, some of that stuff we got to put to the side. You can go back to it if you want to after you get your child straight, but you need to make sacrifices. I know you know that. I'm talking to a choir. I know that. You need to make sacrifices because, see, you were given this gift. You know this already. You were given this gift, and they're in your arms, and they're on your lap temporarily. They're living in your house. They're eating you out of house and home. Okay, we know all of that. But they're doing this temporarily. Pretty soon they're going to be gone. My husband and I emptied our nest a long time ago. Our house is quiet. But we still pay attention to our youth, to our children. Even if they're in their 5th decade, 6th decade, it doesn't matter. We still pay attention to our youth and the other youth that are around. So parents, you're not alone. Parents, there's some healthy options and some unhealthy options. Sometimes the options can be healthy or unhealthy in different situations. Allah says in the Quran that he's going to give us challenges. Somebody has their mic on. The Quran says that we as individuals are going to be tested. God promises us that he's going to test us. God also says he never gives us more than we can handle. So if today's test seems hard and seems challenging, no, you got the strength to bear that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be tested like that. When it is time for you to make choices about what to do, start it off with seeking support from the Creator is my recommendation. Seeking support from the Creator. And for those of you that see things a little differently, just get still for a minute and just get quiet. Don't have a preconceived notion about what the solution is or what the direction is. Just stand still, sit still, be quiet, and you'll get it. You'll get it. And when it comes to you, it might change tomorrow, but for today, this is your answer. And be prepared for those changes. Now, I said that there's healthy and unhealthy, and I'm going to back up a smidgen and talk about a famous historical figure in our lives, in the world. And this is Frederick Douglass. Some of you may have already read his narratives and you know his story. So if I'm repeating it and you know it already, alhamdulillah, that may strengthen you or make you think about maybe sharing it with others later. And some of you may not have known this. Frederick Douglass's grandmother was a slave for a slave master. There's some things that she had done that gained her a higher status as slaves in her older age. And so her slave owner gave her a cabin, she and her husband, a cabin, and gave them the privilege of raising their grandchildren. To my children on this call, that doesn't mean I'm gonna raise your grandchildren, or my grandchildren. That's not what I'm saying. But the slave masters gave her the privilege of raising her grandchildren. Her children were enslaved, but her grandchildren, from a little bit after birth until they were around 6 years old, stayed with their grandparents. The grandparents gave them some freedoms and some restrictions. And Frederick Douglass talked about that in his book and the benefits of it. He didn't understand the benefits at the time, but he saw it later. Fast forwarding this, he eventually was free. He was a free person. He was able to travel and write and do all the wonderful things that he did. And in his narratives, he talks about, he recognized that what his grandparents gave him prepared him to be the free-thinking person that he was. the intuitive thinking person that he was. They allowed him to play. He would go outside, he would stay inside, he found little trinkets. They had a few items that were designated to be toys, but he explored. He explored. There were some limitations to his explorations. Like I said, healthy and unhealthy. There were some limitations to his exploration, but he explored. He had the freedom to explore. He had the freedom to come to his own conclusions about what he discovered. My second to the youngest grandchild, she's walking freely. She can go up and down the stairs freely. So she knows how to navigate her way through her home and make it to where she wants to go, unless she wants mommy or daddy to pick her up. I saw her one day. She was in her sister's room. And she had this in her hand, she had that in her hand, and she's walking around and she can't pick up enough stuff. There's not enough space in her hand to pick up, but she was just gathering and gathering and gathering. And then she'll drop something, look at it, don't need it right now. And then she'll keep going. But she's looking at those things and she's manipulating those things. And there was no one saying, her sisters weren't home at the moment. No one was there to say, stop, 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 stop. Nothing that she was doing was unhealthy. Everything was safe. And she just got a chance to explore and discover. Some of it was just touch. Some of it was taste or shape, the shape of it in her mouth. And I'm watching her and I'm making sure she's safe while she's doing it. And I started talking to her about some of the stuff she picked up. Circle, circle. I'm using my hand. I'm using her physically seeing me. I'm using her hearing me. And then at one point, I took her hand and I had her draw the circle. And I tried to point out as many circles as I could. And one of the places she had circles was on her top. So now she can feel on her belly as I'm doing the circles on her top, she can feel she's got that feeling side of it, not only in the palm of her hand, but also on her belly. So all of that is imprinting on this child's mind, something that she's going to be able to use later. But what amazed me was how curious she was. And I made sure that everything was safe, that she did. But how curious she was is what was amazing. I mean, I knew it, but you know, it just stuck with me. And she was just exploring and exploring and exploring. Now, if her sisters were there was areas that she shouldn't have gone. So I made sure, I tried my best to make sure she didn't go towards the computer or areas that she shouldn't have been. But I didn't say no. I blocked it with my body. I gave her hurdles to get over, because that word no, we overemphasize a lot. And then they get scared. And then and if we say no, no, now they're startled. And now that whole concept of exploration is gone. So that's an unhealthy side of exploring, is us constantly telling them no. And we're doing it because we're trying to protect them, but how we do it leaves an imprint upon their mind, just like the exploration does. And Frederick Douglass and his siblings, his cousins, he specifically talked about his cousins, they got to explore. Grandma and grandpa were there, yes. They got to explore. And as he was talking about that part of it in his book, he was talking about his childhood and how he benefited from his grandmother. But later on, he referenced it as he started talking about what he noticed about the slave owners and their children. Oh, it's such and such age, you're here, so here's what we're going to do. And it's such and such age, and you're here, and here's what we're going to do. Sit up straight when you're playing your piano. I have nothing against playing piano, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against musical lessons, nothing. But the rigidity that it's being done at sometimes can kill that whole spirit in that child. Now, why are we so rigid? Because maybe this is a scholarship thing. Maybe it's going to open up some doors for them later. And it's got to be done right so that they can be competitive. If they don't swing that golf club right, they're not going to be able to play competitive golf. If they're not doing this right or that right, they're not going to be able to do this competitively. Why do they need to do it competitively? Is this their career goal? One of the fathers of some of the children that I'm talking about, he was playing football and he was being recruited. And the coaches of the colleges that were recruiting him, I said, the goal is not for this person to join the NFL. So if that's what you're considering, is to have this person play football for 4 years of college so that he can go to your school. That's not his goal. That's not, okay, maybe it might be his goal, but we're saying as parents, we don't see that as his goal. And so we told them that this is a hobby. It's not the career of this child. It's something he does to get those endorphins released. FYI, endorphins are chemicals we release when we're doing well and having fun and things are good. And when those endorphins are released, they calm our bodies down. They make our bodies be more effective at what they're doing. So anything that's going to give that child a healthy endorphin release is good. So if they're able to, like my granddaughter was walking around and picking things up and exploring and feeling good about what she was doing and not hearing, no, 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 no. If we're able to get the child to engage in those kind of things without all the rigids, then they enjoy it and they release the endorphins. And what Frederick realized was that many of the slave masters' children were growing up where it was just force, no, 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 no. And they were, the brains weren't ready for life. And they grew up in a stressful situation that carried forward in their adulthood. And he compared some of the slave owners who had the whips versus those who had more kindness based on how they were raised. I'm not saying that rigid, and no is going to definitely cause the child not to be successful. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's part of, if we do the opposite, that's part of giving them a better chance of being successful. And if you were that no parent prior to now, or grandparent prior to now, or community person prior to now, okay, we're not responsible for what we don't know. But once you learn, you are responsible, according to the way we're told in the Quran. So I'm saying that just to say God's got our backs, and he has the back of our youth and those to come. So keep your faith that you're doing the best you can, and you continue to do the best that you can. It worked for me to a point. To a point. It does work, but to a point. And if we want them to be prepared for what's in front of them, then we have to take it further and do the best that we can do. Unhealthy options, those that bring that extra stress, those things that are not safe, those things that are counter to the child. Who are you? Are you that person that's good with your hands? Then whatever it is should involve your hands. Are you that person that's athletic? Then whatever it is that you're doing that's going to bring the endorphin release should be related to your athletics. If you're tone deaf like I am, don't put a musical instrument in front of that child. If you have 2 left feet, don't put them in the dance class. Let them be in a space where they're going to be successful. I had a situation where a person was asked to, pick their hobbies, and they're picking certain things. And part of it, I believe, was because their siblings were doing it. But one of the choices that they made was music. And I let them stick with it until they realized this is not what they wanted to do. And I kind of sensed that this was not going to be the best fit for them. But I backed up and I gave them a chance to try it. And when they said, Mommy, I don't want to do it anymore, I backed up. No, you started, and therefore you're going to da-da-da. And I did say to them, let's make sure you're making the best choice and da-da-da-da. Because I don't want them to just feel that they can just jump around. So let's use this as an experience to be able to make a better choice. How did you make that first choice? Whatever was missing, let's not have those things missing the second time around. And they now have their hobbies and their things that they like. They may not be the traditional art and music, and they do have some of that. But they had to come to the point of identifying and recognizing, even before they could identify, that the parents have some knowledge, insight. So matching the child, don't, because I did it. That's you. Your child is not you. Your child is God's merger of specific things. Dad, mom, some of that stuff was turned off when it went into your baby. So some of the stuff that's you may not be expressing itself in your child. So just because you liked it doesn't mean it's you. I have children who don't, there's certain things I love. My children are like, no, they don't, some of the stuff they don't like that their dad does. Some of the stuff that I loathe or that I'm afraid of doing, my children are like, oh yeah, let's do this. My grandchildren, it might come out in them, they're more like me in some situations than their parent is. So let's try to tune in, parents. Who is this person that I gave birth to, that I sired? Who are they? Not who I want them to be. Literally, who are they? From birth, you can start to pick up certain personalities or lack of personalities. Who are they? It's never too early to start. I talked about the grandmother of Frederick Douglass and how she took them from birth until they were 6. At 6 years old, she took them to the plantation, and then they had to be slaves. Usually they had better positions than the other slaves' children or the other children that they had purchased, but they were taken to be slaves. But Frederick said his outlook on slavery didn't end when his grandmother dropped him off in that kitchen. He didn't change his mind on life. His investigations and explorations, they didn't end. Slavery was just a pathway for him to get to where he wanted to be. He didn't see that as the end of everything, and he continued to move forward until he got his freedom. So it was part of a process, and he saw that. And his grandmother made it clear, you spent those 6 years with me. Now this is the next part of your journey. And there's going to be other parts to your journey. And he took that in. He took it seriously. I was taking a class at one of the universities in Chicago who pride themselves on coming up with new policies and new studies and new Pulitzer Prize winners and just stuff. They pride themselves on the research that they do. They don't give back much to the community. The community surrounding them is in really, really bad shape. So we were in this class. We were learning about things that stimulates the development of a brain of a child when they're in the womb. That was the focus of this particular week. So we had all these studies we had read, and now we're having a symposium where we're sharing what we learned, and having a discussion about, and we were analyzing the findings of these research studies. So one of the ones was about playing music while you're pregnant. And we had these studies that said some parents were putting earphones around their bellies and playing music that they could hear themselves. And some chose classical, and some chose acid rock, and some chose jazz, and these different varieties. And they were given the outcomes. At the end of the day, 2 points. Number one, the ears of a child are one of the last parts of the body to develop. So if you're putting these headsets on your belly and you're expecting that child's ears to pick it up, that then stimulates the child's brain, that's not happening, because the ears are one of the last organs to develop. What they found wasn't that the child could hear the music. It was the parents that were benefiting from it. And because of their benefit, 2 things happened to the child later, not now in the womb, but later. Number one, the parents relaxed while they're listening. That calms their heart down. That makes their body process things a lot better, less stress, more endorphins, by the way. And so that baby's getting some of that from mommy. 2, mommy and daddy took out some time to put the earphones on mommy's belly. That taking out time transitions into study time down the line. These hours we're dedicating to the children, depending on what's going on. And so that makes it easier for the parents to do their study time thing because they started it before the baby was born. So that's the major benefit of what comes out of things such as, I'm going to try this method and that method, because some of the stuff the baby's not picking up. But if parents are getting that sense of euphoria, if their endorphins are being released and their body is in a calming state, then their body's going to be more effective at doing what Allah set up for their body to do. And if their timing is being carved out Nothing's more important than me doing this for my child. And that time will always be there. Will be there as much as possible. There will be times it won't be there. So it's never too early to start. It's also never too late to start. And again, you're not responsible for the things you don't know. Parents, I'll come back to you shortly. To the children who are listening, watching, you have a village. You have a village. And you are not alone. That includes right now. That includes tomorrow. That includes the rest of your life. There's people here who can help you. I can't tell you how many surrogate mothers I have in this community, and surrogate fathers, and non-blood related sisters and brothers, because I was raised by a village. And when I had problems, sometimes I didn't even have to say, oh boy, this is bad. Sometimes they could just see it because they've seen me pretty much all my life. And they can recognize when things are not as harmonious as they could be. And I knew that they were there. It's hard to share parents with 8 other siblings. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong. It's just difficult. But to know that your support team is there just made it a lot easier. And at my mother's janazah, may Allah have mercy upon her and grant her into paradise. And those who gave us kind words, we really appreciate it. But in my mother's janazah, there was a whole lot of surrogate siblings. There was a fight over position 10, actually. Those of you who were there, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't a real fight, but we had hashtag number 10. We had number 10 who signed his own adoption papers. So, you know, they knew my mom as a caring and giving person. We knew her as a caring and giving person. But see, their parents helped me too. My parents helped them, and their parents helped me. So children, you're never alone. Even if you're in an empty space and there's no one around you, you are not alone. There is love out here for you. And with that love comes as much support as we can give you. So please reach out to us. Please reach out to us. And if you don't reach out, then you may not get the support. Imam Warthadi Muhammad's wife, Sister Shirley Muhammad, reached out to me at a very, very sensitive part of my upbringing. And I wasn't expecting to do what I did. I opened up and started bawling. Because what was going on inside of me, I was just holding it. I didn't have any way of dealing with it and releasing it. And she just let me cry. And she listened. And the next thing I know, the words coming out of her mouth still ring in my ears today. It's personal, so I'm not going to share it. But she is one of my surrogate moms. And you never know who that person is going to be, children. Don't go and start blabbing your business everywhere. And please do not put it on the internet or in social media. Please. Children, when I say alone, I mean people in your community who have your back. You don't know who's on the other end of that thing. Certain companies, I'm not going to say the name of the companies because I don't want to get sued. 2 T's. I'm not saying the name. Certain companies boastfully say our goal is data collection and data marketing. They collect data and they give it out to the highest bidder. Facial recognition, voice recognition. You actually got your face showing up. You have things with your house or with your community showing up on these social media places and these videos. That stuff is not going to go away just because you delete it. It's probably so before you realize, OMG, I shouldn't have done it. And you're going to go for a job one day, go to a college interview, because I know for a fact, I've heard recruiters say this. When you're applying to colleges today, they actually look your name up and see what kind of post you're making. And that may or may not be harmful. When you're looking for jobs, job interviews, They sometimes look up your post. It may or may not be harmful. We don't want it to be harmful. So I'm saying to you, please be sensitive about how you deal with the social media. Please be sensitive with that. So children, you're not alone. Seek the village that your parents are a part of. Seek a village that might be related to your teacher. And talk to your parents about everything you do. Talk to your grandparents if your parents are not there where you feel comfortable. Talk to your grandparents. You don't have biological grandparents? Keep searching. God's going to give you the clue of who to release it to. Do you know who you are, youth? I loathe certain things. I love other things. But certain things I just don't like. And no matter how you try to sugarcoat it and do whatever, it's just not me. It's just not me. There's a young man that's on this call. He loves basketball. He doesn't just play basketball. He gets into the characteristics of the characters with the basketball games and the teams. So he's not just interested in the physics of playing basketball. He's looking at the psychology of the players. I don't know if he knows that's what he's looking at, but when he can tell you that they did this and they did that because of, he's connected to the psychology of the players. He's connected to the environmental situations, the behavioral situations of that player and how they connect to his or her ability to play. He started doing this when he was about 11 years old. Now he's a sophomore in high school. He knows what I'm talking about. He recognizes the characteristics. So I'm saying all that to say, he's laughing actually. I see him laughing. I'm saying that to say that that's who he is. That's a strength of his to be able to do that now or then at such a young age. That's a strength. That's a strength. That is a possible pathway. If he likes this, and when he's talked to me about it, he loves it. If he likes this, then that's where he should continue to possibly at least pay attention to it, even if he doesn't follow that career pathway, but it's something that he needs to consider. Maybe he could do it as a hobby, or maybe he can do it for a career. And I'm not saying jobs and careers are not the same. The career, you get up in the morning on Monday, yes. The job, oh my goodness, when is Friday? Hump Wednesday. Oh, this is not fun. He is doing something that he likes and prefers to be doing during the day, evening, middle of the night. That could lead to a career. Children, who are you? And who are you today? And will that be the same tomorrow? No, it may not. It may not. But still get a sense of who you are. Talk to people, your parents, your grandparents, the aunts and uncles, the surrogate family members that you have. Talk to them. Share. Let them know. I'm sorry, let me back up. Hey, mom, dad, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. I like to sell. So yeah, I'm going to get me a nickel bag or whatever it's called, and I'm going to start selling. So let's stay out of jail. Let's have some morals. Let's have some decency about who we are. Don't resort to stuff that's going to cause you to lose your freedom. Frederick had a free life. Frederick was enslaved, and then Frederick was freed again. And his mind wasn't warped by his enslavement because his grandmother had set the stage well. Let's stay free, children. Frederick and others like him paved the pathway so that we did never have to be enslaved. And prison is nothing but enslavement that we set up for ourselves. So let's stay away from those things if we can help it. Children, if your pathway changes, that's fine. You're human. You have the right. Don't think you've let anybody down. Your parents have dreams and aspirations for you, true. I was going to be a medical doctor. And nobody could have told me I was not. But my firstborn and the experience that he had, that was not to be my life. I was never going to teach. No, You can't make me be a teacher. Allah had another plan. And I had to be still and listen. And at that time, what forced me to be still was my firstborn. Because I'm sitting in that neonatal nursery with him. And I had an epiphany. I'm going to deal with well babies and not sick babies. I can't deal with sick babies. And that's how I decided to be a teacher. It was that experience that took me there. I never saw it coming. Never saw it coming before that. But I think I made a decent choice, inshallah. Children, respectfully, not disrespectfully, talk to your parents, talk to loved ones, talk to whomever that's going to give you good advice. And do it respectfully, not in the middle of an argument. Do it when you are in the best possible frame of mind, when your endorphins are being released. Have that conversation, because then it's going to be heard. Right? If you do it when you're not, when you're fired up and you're angry and all of that, they may not hear it. Whoever the person is that can help you may not hear it, so they can't help you. Almost done. Villagers, as I said earlier, you have a responsibility. Sometimes all it is to be there. You know that a child's having a special something, give them that support. If you can't physically be there, give them a phone call. I love you. I'll be there in spirit. Village. If you see something, hear something, pull a child's coat. I heard about this college tour. I heard about they're looking for great piano players. They're looking for people who can understand the nature of the basketball player, not just the nature of the physical part of the game. Village people, speak up. I already talked to that young man's mother about some possible things with him, and I'm going to talk to her some more. So village people, please speak up. That's part of our responsibility. You have the ability to put some funds aside and you don't have a direct place for those funds to go, set up an endowment for college money. One of the things about a successful community, they take care of their youth. They help the families take care of those youth. They invest in those youth. There's a mother. She's not with us now. She transitioned some years back. I used to work with her. Her daughter is now working at my alma mater, where I got my bachelor's degree and part of my doctorate. I knew this young lady's mother doing some things, and she didn't even know her mother had done it. And now she is the parent of 3 young ladies who have moved beyond high school, alhamdulillah. Her mother left memories in my mind, and I taught her brother. I taught her brother in grammar school, doing very well, alhamdulillah. Her mother left memories in my mind of a caring, giving person that I looked up to. She was one of my villagers. And as I think back on her, all I can think about is positiveness. And as I see her child, I don't see her son as often, and I see her granddaughters, I see her. And I'm saying all that to say, villagers, you never know who you touch. We would just be in the car together, being escorted home. We would be in the office together, working on our job, and then some conversation would start. She left so many tidbits for me. There's a sister that might be on this call who worked in that office too. Biologically, she doesn't have any children, but I consider myself one of her nieces because she left marks on me that are positive. So I'm saying all this to say, those villagers that help out, we leave a mark that's positive, inshallah. And if anybody can get this message to my favorite science teacher in the whole wide world, tell her I will take those things that she gave me to my grave. And if there are any of my other teachers or principals, possibly a principal or 2 might be on this call, I will take what you gave me to my grave because I respect and thank you for what you did. So with that, I'm going to end my part and open up the floor and let Sister Rashida guide the rest of the meeting. And I do want to say one thing. For those of you that did not hear, I'm in Seoul, Korea right now, and it's 3:53 in the morning here on Monday. And I'm here because we are working on a peace education program. And we're talking about how we're going to try to minimize some of the social emotional concerns that children have, adults have, that's leading to so much turmoil. So those of you that are interested in that, reach out to me at a different time. But inshallah, I do plan on this time. My husband's pushing me to put something in Muslim Journal to give you some insight on what's going on. All right, Sister Rashida, thank you.
Thank you so very much for that wonderful presentation. All praise due to Allah.
Yeah.
Have the floor open up for any questions. Anybody want to, or any comments? We have about 6 minutes for the questions or comments.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Bashir Assad. Thank you, Sister Lynn, for your presentation. And we also thank you for your faithful, persistent, dedicated work in the area of education for this community. What I'd like to ask you, and we know that education is very important in our society, any society that's going to make progress. I know you've been working in this area for a long time. Would you want to give some of your focuses and to tell us what based upon your education and your experiences and your study, where we should be focusing as a community, and what we're mission to do in this area of education. And, you know, understanding too that you've been working both in physical schools and on the broader internet plane. So if you want to give us some insight and focus. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your question. My recommendation is that we look at the components that helps to make a holistic community. Education is just one piece of that. Our dean is one piece of that. Our dean is the umbrella that all the pieces fit under, but it also has its place as a unique component. That we look at these pieces and we make sure to the best of our ability that we have those pieces available for our youth. I am not advocating that the only place that they should work is within a very small, close-knit community. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we as a community need to make sure that we have those pieces. Job opportunities, schooling opportunities, etc. Because I felt very comfortable going through my schooling experience because I knew that there were some things in place where if I wanted to work, I had an opportunity to work for my community's growth, for my community's growth. And some people want to move far away and they want to work outside and work. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. But to know that that security is there, I think is a critical part. At least I have that to fall back on. If that some people might take that attitude. So my concerns about the future are not so vast because at least the community has made sure that I have the tools I need and the locations I need so that my future is pretty bright. So that's what I'm advocating for. And not that we're going to rely on someone else to do it for us. I heard a person say one time, the president is my baby's daddy because the president is the one who's taking care of my baby's needs financially. We shouldn't be relying on other people to do that kind of stuff for us, and definitely not the taxpayers. This is something we need to be doing ourselves. And in my experience, because you raised your children in our community, my parents raised us in our community, my suggestion is that this community give that child something to look forward to, that they can continue to stay and grow. Not that they're going to isolate themselves, but they can continue to stay and contribute to the community that helped to raise them. Because what I did not say is that the community gave me a scholarship. I walked away with my bachelor's degree with 0 debt because of the community giving me a scholarship. So what you see me doing, a whole lot of that is obligation, because the community is what made me who I am. I have a U of C transcript. I got a Stanford transcript. I have a Harvard transcript. I have a Loyola transcript. I have a University of Illinois transcript in Chicago. I have an Olive Harvey's transcript. That's not what makes me who I am. This community did it. And that's what my obligation is. And our children need to feel that that obligation is there.
Thank you so much. Imam Tariq, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you, Sister Rashida. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you,
Walaikum assalam.
Dr. Lynn, for this focus on holistic education. There are many things that you've said that have stuck with me, and I also consider myself a direct beneficiary of your dedication. You're my 5th grade or 6th grade?
Seventh grade teacher.
See, I always forget what year.
and then the university, at the university level.
That's right,
with
at AIC as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I have to say, Imam El-Amin was a good student. I have to say that. He was a young man. He did what young men did, but he had a conscience. He had a moral conscience that, alhamdulillah, took over. If he, my opinion, I didn't see him 24/7, but when he was with me, he was alhamdulillah, he was a good student.
Alhamdulillah, I appreciate that, Dr. Lynn. There's something that you reminded, not just myself, I know all of us, but definitely reminded me of when you said that we can't just think about who we want our children to be, because we're thinking about what we see as the recipe for success in society, but to think about who they are, to really look at them, and then to be curious about them. Right, that's the other extension to that, is to be curious about them, and to pour into them, open up ways for them to come out.
That's right.
So that's just a really profound statement, and something to really hold on to, because often we try to unintentionally and trying to do the best for them, but try to make our children into who we want them to be, instead of looking at how to make them the best of who they are. So
that part is critical. Alhamdulillah, that part is critical. Don't just have your child go after something, or tell them or give them encouragement to go after something because maybe it's a lot of money involved in that, or it's a prestigious thing for them to do that, or you wanted to do it but you couldn't do it, and you think this is a great choice for them. Don't do that for that reason. Who is the child? Who is that child? That's going to play a critical role on the level, on the focus of your support for them. And if you don't know, sometimes we just got to talk to them or listen to them, because they might be giving us clues and we don't see it or hear it. But Allah will unveil it when it's time for you to know. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're at the 2:00 hour. So I thank you so very much, Dr. Lynn, for sacrificing your rest.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
For this presentation. It was beautifully done, and I thank you, and the community thanks you. So we're going to close out with the Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta 'alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. All praise due to Allah. Thank you.